My sister skipped our family reunion to go to a wedding and posted a video mocking me while I sat alone, holding the gift Dad picked out for her. They said I was too emotional, too unstable. Then they called my father senile, just so they could steal what he promised me. But the truth? It didn't stay buried. When my cousin called, her voice was light, almost teasing. "So you must be excited for the big weekend." I blinked, pausing halfway through my coffee. "What weekend?" She laughed like I was pulling her leg. "Vanessa's wedding. I thought you'd be there early, maybe help set up?" I went quiet. She filled the silence. "Wait, you didn't know?" "No," I said, the word catching in my throat. There was a long pause. Then she muttered, "Oh, I mean, isn't that the same weekend as the reunion?" Yes, it was. The same reunion I'd been helping plan for months. The one I'd been sending reminders for. The one we'd all agreed on last Thanksgiving, set in stone. Sacred. I hung up and stared at my phone. Then I looked across the room, at the shelf where that old family photo sat, tucked in the corner like an afterthought. I picked it up. There we were, all of us smiling at last year's reunion. Vanessa right in the middle, radiant in a summer dress. And me, partially cut off like I was never really part of it in the first place. I could feel the thrum in my chest. Not panic, something quieter, meaner. Disbelief that started to curdle into something darker. She hadn't even told me. She hadn't said a word. Growing up, I was always the one expected to understand, to let things go. I was the youngest, the flexible one, the easy one. And Vanessa? She was the prize. My mother's favorite, my father's darling. She could be cruel with a smile on her face and walk away praised for her charm. There was a time, maybe 10 years ago, when my dad called me the glue that held us together. "You're the one who remembers birthdays, honey. The one who calls when no one else does." I used to take pride in that. I don't anymore. Last year, when no one offered to pay for the caterer, I quietly wrote the check. No one said thank you. They just posted pictures and moved on. Maybe it wasn't forgetfulness this time. Maybe it never was. A few days later, I got a text from a friend, one of the few who still talked to both sides. "Saw this and thought of you," she wrote, followed by a laughing emoji. I clicked the link. It was a video. Vanessa's wedding. She stood under some twinkle lights, mic in hand, grinning wide. "And can we just take a moment to appreciate how some people," she giggled, "still hold a grudge over not being invited to birthday parties at 7? The room erupted in laughter. My name wasn't said, but I felt it land like a slap. I replayed the clip 3 times. Her voice echoed in the kitchen, mocking me, twisting the knife. The comments started trickling in under the post. "This is so Vanessa. OMG, I remember that. She's still mad. That's wild." No one defended me. The video made its rounds through the family. My inbox stayed empty. It's funny. You think you've grown out of caring what they think. But then they laugh, and it still burns. I called my dad. Just to hear someone say it wasn't okay. He picked up on the 3rd ring, breathless. "Sweetheart?" "I just wanted to ask." I hesitated. "Did you know Vanessa planned the wedding on reunion weekend?" A pause. Then, slowly, "Wasn't it your choice not to come?" I stood still. "No," I said, voice tight. "She never told me. No invitation. No message. And now, there's a video. She made jokes about me. Everyone laughed. No one said a thing." He went quiet. A long, wheezy silence. Then softly, "There's more you don't know, sweetheart." My stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" But he was already slipping. "Did I tell you about the show I've been watching? The one with the guy who... What's his name again?" I sat on the kitchen floor, listening to him drift through memories that didn't exist. Even my pain wasn't clear enough to stick in his head. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in that video, laughing like I never existed. I watched the video again. No sound this time, just their faces. Vanessa's voice was burned into my memory already. She didn't need volume anymore. Her lips moved, her hands gestured, her laughter spilled across the screen. What hit harder now were the people behind her, the smirks, the glances exchanged like inside jokes. Every playback pulled a new thread from something I thought was whole, and it kept unraveling. I sat in the same spot for hours. The old recliner by the window, the one Dad used to call my thinking chair. I wasn't thinking, though. I was remembering. Reassembling fragments I'd filed away for years. The time Vanessa got caught sneaking out in high school. I covered for her, told Mom she was with me at the library. Next thing I knew, I was grounded for lying to cover my own tracks, because she let me take the fall when a neighbor saw her out. That had always confused me, until now. All of it was there, waiting. Little things. Slight invitations that never came. Jokes made at my expense that I laughed off. I thought I was being the bigger person. Turns out I was being erased. I pulled out a notebook, one I hadn't touched since college. I didn't write Dear Diary or pour out my feelings. I wrote facts, dates, incidents, names, like evidence, like I was finally building a case for something no one had ever believed but me. A knock came late in the afternoon. I didn't want to answer, but I looked through the peephole and saw Ramona. She stepped in holding 2 iced teas. "Didn't think you'd be up for coffee," she said, setting them down. "I came to check on you." Ramona was my cousin, but she'd always been more like a quiet ally. She stayed out of drama, until now. "I saw the video," she said, after a long silence. I nodded. "I left after that speech," she added. "Didn't even stay for the cake. The way she said it, the smugness. It was cruel." I didn't speak. I just stared at my tea. "She told someone behind me," Ramona said, her voice low, "that you were fragile, that you'd cry it out and forget by Monday." I looked at her, something in my chest cracking, not from the insult, but the certainty with which Vanessa had said it. "She always thought I'd forget," I whispered. "That I'd swallow it like always." Ramona leaned forward. "You're the only one who's ever kept receipts, Mary. You just never used them." I didn't cry, but I felt something shift, like a door creaking open in a house I didn't know was mine. Later that evening, after she left, I plugged in my old phone, the one I stopped using after switching carriers. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe I just needed to hear a different voice. I found a voicemail from Dad, saved from a year ago. His voice was tired, but clear. "Don't let them fool you, sweetheart. Family hides things under the rug, until the rug disappears." I replayed it 3 times. What if he wasn't slipping? What if he was trying to tell me something? I stared at the screen, the contact photo of him flickering from poor lighting in the image. Maybe he wasn't forgetful. Maybe he'd been ignored too, or chose silence the way I had, until silence stopped being safe. That night, I didn't post anything. No cryptic quotes, no passive-aggressive shares, just stillness. But I started collecting screenshots, texts, old messages that once felt too small to save. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. I wasn't looking to make a scene. I was building a record. Quiet, undeniable. I began drafting something. Not to post, not yet. Just to write it down. Not a rant. A story. A story where every detail was deliberate, where truth wasn't loud, but couldn't be ignored. Dad once told me, "The truth whispered at the right moment hits harder than any scream." I never really understood what he meant, until now. And just like that, I realized, it wasn't about being remembered. It was about refusing to be erased. The morning light slipped through the blinds, pale and cold. I opened my eyes without feeling rested, just awake in the technical sense. My hands moved on their own, flipping on the coffee pot, turning the radio dial to the usual AM station. But even the familiar crackle of the weather report couldn't drown out the noise in my chest. I wiped down the kitchen counter again. It was already clean, but I scrubbed like it could silence everything spinning in my mind. On top of a stack of old mail, I spotted a small, cream-colored envelope I didn't recognize. My name was written on it in my father's careful, slanted handwriting. No stamp. Just the words. Open when you feel most unseen. I held it for a long time. Part of me wanted to tear it open and find something. What? I didn't know. But another part of me was afraid it would offer hope, and I didn't know if I had the stomach for hope today. So, I tucked the envelope back between a magazine and a grocery list and stepped outside instead. The air was sharp. My boots crunched over leftover salt from last week's snow. I walked without aim, trying to escape the house that had started to echo with laughter that wasn't mine. A few blocks away, I ended up at the small coffee shop near the park, the kind with mismatched mugs and a piano no one played anymore. As I waited in line, someone tapped my shoulder. Mary? I turned and saw Elise, Vanessa's old college roommate. She looked older, sharper than I remembered. Still beautiful, but her expression wasn't sweet. It was serious. I wasn't sure if I should say something, she began, clutching a chai latte. But, are you okay? I nodded, but my face must have said otherwise. That toast, she said, lowering her voice. It was cruel. She didn't look away, didn't try to soften the word, just let it sit between us. She's always had a flair for being the center of attention, I replied, trying not to sound bitter. Elise hesitated, then added, At her bachelorette party, she used your name, said you'd probably find a way to ruin the big day. Most people laughed. I didn't. I felt a tightness in my throat, not from surprise, but from confirmation. I unfollowed her after I saw the wedding clip, Elise said. It just didn't sit right. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Vanessa hadn't just made me the villain in private. She was playing a part, and I was her convenient shadow. Back home, the envelope sat exactly where I'd left it. This time, I opened it. There wasn't much inside, just a note in my father's voice. You've always stood in the shadow because I believed you were strong enough to survive in it. Maybe I was wrong to assume. I sat down hard on the edge of the couch. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't an apology. But it was something. A weight I didn't know I'd been carrying shifted. A small photo fluttered out from the fold. Me and Dad, laughing. It was a reunion from years ago. I had no memory of the picture being taken, but I remembered the feeling. For the first time in days, I let the tears come, and they weren't bitter. They just were. Later that night, I opened my laptop. I didn't post anything. I didn't craft a dramatic takedown. I started writing a story, not about Vanessa, about our family, about truth. Just facts. Things that happened, patterns, moments that shaped everything. No rage, no accusations, just structure, just clarity. Ramona read the draft and said, This will hit different, not because it's dramatic, but because it's undeniable. I saved it and closed the document. The time wasn't right yet, but it would be, and when it came, I'd be ready. I looked at myself in the mirror for a long moment, then whispered to my reflection, You're not invisible. Not anymore. That night, I didn't dream of them laughing. I dreamed of standing up and them finally realizing they were never looking at me at all. It was mid-morning when I sat down with the stack of documents again, the ones I'd been collecting since the night I stopped shrinking. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just trying to make sense of a history written in paper. Then I saw it. The estate map. The new one. At first, it looked normal. Same property outlines, same family name at the top. But when I compared it to the older one I'd saved years ago, something wasn't right. My name, my parcel, gone. Not crossed out, not reassigned. Just missing, like it had never been there. My chest tightened. I blinked hard, willing myself not to panic. I remembered that day in Dad's study years ago. Selma leaned over his desk, tapping the old map. Mary's just on here for tradition, she'd said with a chuckle. I'd brushed it off then. A bad joke. Now it felt like foreshadowing. I called Ramona, voice steady. I need copies of the earlier versions. All of them. Especially anything that mentions property lines. She didn't ask questions. I'll check the storage bin in the garage. I think Dad gave me a backup box after his stroke. By noon, I was driving to Selma's office. I didn't call ahead. The place looked exactly how I remembered it. Soulless modern furniture, fake plants, framed certifications she never let you forget she earned. She greeted me in the lobby like we were old friends. "Mary, you look well." I didn't smile. "I need to ask about the estate map. Something's off." She raised her brows, all pleasant professionalism. "Let's grab a coffee first. I just brewed some." "No thanks." I laid the two maps on the table between us. "Why is my name gone? These were both from the same file set. One has me, one doesn't." Selma leaned forward, voice light. "Oh, that. The property division changed years ago. You must have forgotten to return the amendment documents. No signature, no claim." "It's all very standard." I stared at her. "You mean to tell me I lost part of my father's estate because I forgot to return paperwork I was never told existed?" She tilted her head. "It was legally adjusted. Nothing shady. And you never followed up." The wordplay was elegant. The intent was clear. She handed me a copy of the amendment. "Just so you have it." It was vague, backdated, missing witnesses. My supposed signature was barely visible, like a smudge someone traced over. I left with the document in hand, rage in my chest, but my voice calm, too calm. That evening, I forced myself to attend a charity dinner Selma was hosting. I needed to see the crowd she trusted to echo her version of truth. In the middle of dessert, I heard someone across the table laugh. Did Mary ever plan that reunion again, or did she finally accept her unpaid title? Snickers followed. I smiled politely. A woman behind me leaned in and whispered, "They've been rewriting things so long, she isn't sure what's even hers anymore." I didn't react. I just watched Selma from across the room, working the crowd, charming donors, spinning tales. She wasn't just reshaping facts, she was teaching others how to believe them. Back home, I stared at the amendment again. That signature. It was almost mine. Almost. I called Ramona. "Can you check the digital scan logs on this file? Date it was uploaded, any stamp data?" She called back 10 minutes later. "You're not gonna like this. The file's timestamp is the same day as Vanessa's wedding invite went out." Too perfect. Too coordinated. I felt sick. This wasn't just inheritance. This was manipulation through systems, legal lines used like scissors. The next day, I called a document examiner. I wired the deposit before hanging up. At home that night, I sat on the couch in the same spot I found Dad's letter. Old words played in my head. "You're fine. Don't make a fuss. You'll understand when you're older." I had understood. Just too late. I pulled out my notebook. Not the one with receipts. The other one, the one I wrote in when I needed to remember I existed outside their version of me. I wrote, "They erased me in ink. I'll answer in evidence." Not loud, not angry, but final. I didn't need a public tantrum. I needed precision. If they wanted to forget me, they'd have to work harder. The text came through just after I'd finished cleaning the kitchen. Group message. Selma's name on it, cheerful as ever. "Family dinner this Friday at 6. Let's reconnect and move forward. Bring a dish or just bring yourself." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button, not typing a word. I didn't need Ramona to warn me, but she did anyway, minutes later in a separate message. "She's not mending fences. It's bait. If you go, go sharp." I sat on the edge of the bed, thinking about what to wear, not for looks, but for armor. Something that didn't wrinkle when I stood up. I wasn't going for forgiveness. I was going for clarity. No speeches, just a few lines I'd rehearsed in the mirror. Truth, short enough not to twist. If you don't stand firm, they'll walk you into a corner and call it compromise. Dad used to say that. He wasn't wrong. By the time I pulled into that long gravel driveway out in the country, the sun was dipping low behind the trees, casting everything in a kind of golden pretense. The house was dressed up for the occasion, string lights on the porch, floral arrangements on the steps, overdone for a casual dinner. Exactly what I expected. Inside, it smelled like pot roast and cinnamon candles. I stepped through the entryway and was greeted by Vanessa with a tone so sweet it rotted. "There she is, my little sis." She kissed my cheek like we were 6 years old playing make-believe. I didn't flinch. just nodded. Selma appeared next, laughing, holding a wine glass like it was part of her wardrobe. "Oh, come on now," she grinned. "Let's forget the past. It's just paperwork, honey." Around us, the family made small talk. Their eyes flicked my way now and then, quick, nervous, like they weren't sure whose version of the story they were supposed to believe yet. I sat. I smiled. I ate the salad someone passed me, all while counting my heartbeats like bullets. Then Vanessa brought it up. Of course she did. "I'm just glad you're here tonight," she said loudly, for the table. "We were all worried when you didn't come to the wedding, but we understand some people are more sensitive than others." I set my fork down, wiped my mouth. "Let's not pretend you forgot to invite me," I said calmly. "I have screenshots. Your assistant CC'd me by mistake." The air went still. I turned toward Selma, who hadn't blinked yet. "And the property amendment? You might want to double-check the timestamp. I already did." No one moved. A fork clinked. Someone muttered, "Oh God." I looked around. "This is your only warning. Keep pushing, and I'll push back. Legally, publicly, and with every receipt you've forgotten I kept." I didn't shout. I didn't shake. I just watched the storm settle behind their faces. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Her voice didn't rise. But the smile was gone. Selma, ever the diplomat, leaned in. "Mary, sweetheart, let's not get dramatic. It's all just poor communication." A cousin chimed in. Mark, I think. "Honestly, dragging up all this old drama is kind of exhausting." Ramona reached under the table, her hand warm on mine. Didn't say a word. Didn't have to. I stood up. "I'm going to leave early. This isn't weakness, it's timing." I walked out into the night air, feeling the chill hit my arms. No one followed. Back home, I placed my purse on the counter and pulled out my phone. I'd left the recorder on all dinner, tucked next to my wallet. Just in case, I listened. Selma's tone, Vanessa's phrasing, they weren't speaking from the heart. They were sticking to lines, coded things like, "You know she always misunderstands nuance," and "This is how Mary interprets silence." They weren't careless. They were practiced. They didn't react to me. They prepared for me. I opened a new email and attached the audio. To Attorney W. McCleary. Subject, file, dinner, 9:14. Recording. No more warnings. Let's begin. I stepped into my office that morning feeling like I left something important behind. My phone buzzed before I even hung my coat. Someone sent the video again. My name, my face, background whispers accusing me of being emotional, of dwelling on something that should have belonged in the past. I turned off the computer, sat at my desk, let the silence spread. I didn't expect people at work to know. But whispers turned to half smiles, and those became glances. One coworker copied the video to a group chat. Selma and Vanessa, voices loud enough to insist I was unstable, obsessed with the old maps, tied to lines and documents I allegedly didn't understand. My ladder of dignity started creaking. My boss asked me into his office. Kind voice, gentle questions. "Are you doing okay? Maybe take some time if things feel heavy." I leaned back, said nothing. I saw through it. Not compassion, an invitation to disappear. That night, at a community event, Selma's face lit under stage lights, hosting fundraisers like she owned the healing. They played a slideshow, family reunion photos, captions edited. One threw me back 15 years, a reunion picture where I was crying for a reason I'd forgotten. Caption said, "Still crying, still bitter." I left, quietly, let them stare at the empty seat. Then I wrote. On Facebook, I named the manipulation, shared quotes from the examiners, the amended estate papers, the forged signature trace. Ramona typed back, warning. "You sure you want this out there?" I replied, "Let them come. I'm done hiding." Messages flooded in. Some supportive, some enraged. An old friend messaged, "I remember them calling you fragile." It was never true. It clicked. My story was theirs too, hidden in mocking laughs and edited captions. Vanessa responded with a lawyer's letter. "Defamation," she said. I responded with mine, copy of property forgery, workplace rumors. Then threats followed, calls in the night, notes slipped under my door, my car keyed. A shattered mirror. Harsh words sprayed on the side. Still, I kept my voice sharp, my record clean. I sat beside Dad one afternoon, maps spread on the kitchen table. The original estate map, my edited version, video evidence. He looked at the pictures, his eyes trying to focus. "That's not what I left," he said. "I wanted you to have part of this. Always." I recorded it, consent clear in his voice. This was no longer about proving my pain. It was about exposing what they tried to rewrite. That day, I stopped trying to hold peace for them. I drew my own lines, firm, clear, and final. The lights in the community hall were bright enough to see every line on Selma's face. I sat near the back, clutching a folder filled with maps, recordings, and Dad's voice, the proof I'd been gathering. My heartbeat thrummed under calm words. I practiced standing tall, speaking up. I wasn't bracing for their cheers. I was bracing for truth. When Selma stood at the podium to speak about unity and lineage, the room hushed. I felt the hush. She smiled, the kind of smile that expects applause. That was my moment. I rose, walking through the rows, every step conscious. I held up the recording. "I have something from my father I need you all to hear." I pressed play. My father's voice cracked through the silence, confirming what Selma had changed unlawfully. There was audible gasping. Selma's jaw tightened. She stared, stunned. People shifted. Phones came up. Cameras rolled. Eyes that held doubt before flickered. Then I held up the amended document Selma's lawyer claimed was legitimate. On one side, my name missing, signatures misted, dates mismatched. On the other, the original map, clear lines, my parcel drawn. Ramona's voice beside me. "Look here, there's no stamp, no credible witness." A murmur ran through the crowd, whispers of "forged, why hide this? That's wrong." Selma tried to speak. She accused me of lying, dramatizing, seeking attention. Her words sounded rehearsed, but those around her didn't nod. An uncle I barely saw twice a year stood up, his voice old and firm. "I saw Mary's name on that map years ago, front and center." Others nodded. Heads turned. Agreement spread. The legitimacy of what I was saying took hold. I folded the documents with deliberate slowness, kept them visible. I didn't shout. My voice didn't waver. I don't need apologies. I need recognition. And I'm keeping every record, every voice. The cameras stayed on me. A phone flashed. My father watched, eyes watery, not confused anymore. The room exhaled, not in relief, but truth. In that moment, silence transformed. From something that hid me to something that bore witness, I stood firm, not angry, just seen. The morning after the live stream felt heavier than usual. My phone lit up before I even opened my eyes. Voicemails, messages, tags, screenshots. I scrolled through slowly. Some friends I hadn't heard from in years reached out with, "Proud of you," or "It's about time." Others warned me, "They're angry, Mary. Be careful." One message just said, "Finally, someone said it." By noon, the video had been shared over 3,000 times. A local journalist left a voicemail requesting a comment. The headline on their blog read, "Family Feud or Elder Fraud." What caught me off guard wasn't the view count, it was the tone. People weren't just curious, they were questioning Selma's motives. Someone from a senior rights nonprofit contacted me, asking for documents. That shook me a little. For years, I thought this only hurt me. Now it felt bigger. How many others had been erased in silence? Later that week, Selma responded, as I expected, through a local news segment. "It's all a misunderstanding," she said, sitting in her living room like a retired Sunday school teacher. She smiled. "My father's intentions were clear. Mary just interpreted them differently." Vanessa followed suit with photos from her wedding, captioned, "This is what real family looks like." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I sent a formal complaint to the state board about the mishandling of estate documents. That went straight into record. Ramona called me that night. "Don't chase the barking dog," she said. "Let the judge hear the leash." That line stuck with me. I started organizing everything: emails, messages, maps, signatures, every inconsistency, every date that didn't line up. I didn't need to win hearts anymore. I was preparing for court. Then came the cracks within the family. Mark, my cousin who always leaned toward Selma's side, reached out. He apologized, said he felt sick watching the live stream. He sent me scanned photos, snapshots of our grandfather's hand-drawn property lines with my name written in faded ink. He added, "I didn't want to believe it, but you were right." That was a shift. One small stone moving in a wall that had boxed me out for decades. Other cousins followed, tentative messages, some awkward, some heartfelt. The old family group chat became a war zone. Memes, passive-aggressive quotes, screenshots. I didn't say a word, not because I was afraid, but because my silence now carried weight. I let their words stack against themselves. Meanwhile, my lawyer kept building the case. We added testimonies from neighbors who remembered the original plans. A woman who used to work for Selma came forward, discreetly. She didn't want to go public yet, but she knew Selma had moved papers around more than once. "You're not on defense anymore," my attorney told me during our last meeting. "You're building a counterclaim. They wanted to intimidate you. Now we're giving them paperwork." It was odd, this new calm. Not the numbness of defeat, but something rooted, like I was finally walking inside my own skin. Every email I sent now had weight. Every document I shared meant something. The final nudge came during a bake sale. Small-town event, friendly faces. Selma stood there, dishing out lemon bars like she hadn't just been publicly exposed. Someone, maybe a new churchgoer, asked how I was. Selma smiled and said, "We're praying for Mary's mental clarity." That clip made it to my inbox by evening. I didn't reply publicly. I just texted Ramona. "Let's make sure the judge sees that prayer." She replied with a thumbs up. Next morning, I scheduled my deposition. The courthouse was colder than I remembered. Maybe it was just me, sitting still in my blazer, trying not to fidget. My lawyer whispered something about timing, about facts, about holding steady. I barely heard her. My eyes were fixed across the room. Selma sat 3 rows ahead, back straight like always. Vanessa beside her, arms folded tight. The gallery was filled with familiar faces, some family, others from the community. Most avoided looking at me. Some stared, unsure where to land. When Selma's attorney started, they came out confident, talking legacy, misunderstanding, grief. But they stumbled. Dates didn't match. A witness pulled back. And when the forged amendment came up, the whole courtroom shifted. You could feel it in the air, like someone opening a window in January. Then my lawyer stood. She didn't raise her voice. She just said, "Silence doesn't mean agreement, it means survival." And then she sat. The judge didn't need long. "The amendment is void," she said. "Ownership reverts to the original beneficiary, Mary Ann Layton." Just like that. There was a pause, longer than I expected. A soft murmur rippled through the seats. Selma blinked, didn't speak. For the first time in my life, she had nothing to say. Vanessa didn't look at me. She just stood and walked out. Outside the building, the light hit different. The noise of cars, birds, someone's phone ringing, it all sounded clearer. As I made my way to the sidewalk, I saw her, Vanessa, standing by the hedge. Alone. She didn't come at me with the usual sharpness, no smirk, no sarcasm, just a plain look in her eyes. "I still don't like how you aired it all out," she said. "But I see now what she took from you." She reached out her hand. It wasn't an apology, it wasn't warmth, but it was something real, and that was enough. I shook her hand. Behind me, Ramona leaned against the car. "This doesn't fix everything," she said. "But it opens a door." I nodded. I wasn't here for closure through hugs or shared tears. I just wanted peace. That was enough. That weekend, I brought yellow roses to Dad's care home. He was alert, sitting upright when I walked in. His eyes softened when he saw me. "Did you fix it?" he asked, his voice thin but sure. I nodded. I used my voice this time. He reached for my hand. Your mother would be proud. I didn't cry, but something broke inside me, in a good way, a kind of breaking that makes room for something new. A week later, I stood on the front porch of the house, mine again. The air smelled like leaves and earth. Ramona stood next to me, holding a box labeled Photos, 1980s. I've been thinking, I told her. What if we turned this into a grief support house? For women over 50, somewhere silence doesn't win. She smiled, like she'd been waiting for me to say that. Then let's make it loud. The first box I carried in was labeled Mom's Recipes. That felt right. In the days that followed, I sorted through paperwork, started calls, made lists. But one night, I sat alone and pulled out something I hadn't touched since spring. A letter I'd written to Selma. Never sent it, never meant to, just words I'd needed to say once. I don't hate you. I pity your fear. I read it again. Then I lit a match. As it burned in the ashtray, I whispered to myself, this chapter is closed. No fireworks, no big celebration, just a quiet kind of power. I didn't need their approval. I had my voice, and I wasn't giving it back.